Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's off-road update. After the first 3 rounds of GNCC competition, it was clear that FMF Factory KTM's Johnny Gerard was the man to beat for the rest of the 2024 season. Several riders, though, were wanting to make their mark and show that they were in championship contention for the rest of the year. As the rest of the field headed into Society Hill, South Carolina for the Camp Coker Bullet GNCC, there was one objective on everyone's mind: stop Johnny G's momentum. As the 8 a.m. youth race fired off the line for the usual 90-minute event, it was Caleb Wood grabbing his third whole shot of the year aboard his Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki. Following him through the start chicane would be Husqvarna-mounted Braden Baisley, KTM-mounted Ethan Harwell and Doc Smith, as well as another Husqvarna, Landon Barker. After one lap of racing, Baisley had moved into the lead position and pulled a 13-second gap over Wood. Harwell was on the rear tire of the Kawasaki pilot, followed by Smith, as well as Brody Amos, who had come through the field after a poor start. As laps 2 and 3 would be completed, Baisley continued to stretch his advantage over Wood by more than 45 seconds. The battle for third would continue to swap around as Smith, Amos, and Harwell, all in a dogfight never more than a few seconds apart. At the halfway point, Baisley would check in with a 1-minute 15-second lead over new second-place rider Amos. Wood faced issues in the pines that dropped him to third, while Harwell and Smith were still fighting over fourth and fifth. Wood continued to fall down the order on the ensuing lap to the 4th spot as Harwell moved back into a podium position, relegating Smith to the 5 spot behind Baisley and Amos. For the final 3 laps, Baisley stretched his advantage over the rest of the field, who continued to battle for second. At the checkered flag, it was Braden Baisley taking his first youth overall victory of the season. Caleb Wood rallied the final 3 laps to reclaim the 2nd spot, with Doc Smith less than a second behind at the finish. Amos would finish 4th, while Harwell kept himself in contention, rounding out the top 5.
Can't thank everybody enough. Mom and Dad put in the work. Everybody, such a good race. Passed Caleb on the first lap and just never looked back. Man, it was so fun out there. I was having so much fun. Like on the last lap, I was just pushing as hard as I could because I knew I was gonna get the win, and it's my first win in a while at GNCC, and I'm stoked. So we're gonna take it into Tennessee. It's my home race, and hopefully get another one there.
10 o'clock signaled the start of the WXC class as an incredible 18 riders headed toward corner number 1. Coming out of the sandy first turn was Rockstar Husqvarna's Corey Steed grabbing the whole shot. Behind Steed came Ampro Yamaha's Jordan Jarvis, Husqvarna-mounted Jocelyn Barnes, and a duo of Gas riders in the form of Georgia winner Shelby Turner and West Coast visitor Ava Silvestri. In the early going, it was Steed who had a huge advantage over the field just 4 miles into the first lap. Jarvis popped out of the tight pine section in the 2nd spot, while Turner and defending champion Rachel Archer had ground to make up. As Barnes was rounding out the top 5, more riders were on the charge to catch the Ohio native out front, including Preston Rains, Rachel Gudish, Silvestri, and Brandy Richards. Steed led the field through the finish at the end of lap 1 with a near 40-second gap to the rest of the field. Archer had made the best of a bad start and moved her way into second, while Richards, Jarvis, and Turner rounded out the top 5. The battle for 6th raged on early into lap 2 with Barnes, Gudish, and Silvestri in a tight pack. The 2nd lap of the race, everything went sideways in a hurry to the running order. Just 2 miles in, lappers were already playing a role as there were over 549 riders entered into the 2-hour morning race. Steed continued to hold the point position over the battling duo of Archer and Richards, but the lead was shrinking. By the time the race had reached the midway point, Steed's advantage had dropped to just 4 seconds over new second-place rider Richards, while Archer had her own issues with a tree and had fallen back 26 seconds to Richards. Jarvis held the 4th spot while Turner continued to round out the top 5. Early into lap 3, Richards took over the lead just ahead of the 444. Archer was all alone in 3rd, while Jarvis was feeling pressure coming from behind from Shelby Turner. Not too far off from the 5th-place Turner was still Jocelyn Barnes and Rachel Gudish. The WXC front half of the field was staying together much closer than is typical of that class. With the field on their last lap of racing, Richards still held the advantage with Steed just 15 seconds behind as they cleared a near 2-minute gap over Archer back to 3rd, who had her own 2-minute advantage back to Turner, who had taken over 4th from Jarvis. As the checkers fell, Richards would come through to take her 2nd victory of the season. After 30 seconds, everyone started to wonder where was Steed. As more riders came through, it became apparent that the Husqvarna rider had run out of fuel just a mile before the finish. As a result, the running order shifted dramatically. Archer would come through in 2nd, with Rachel Gudish mounting a charge on the final lap to go from 6th to 3rd to round out the podium. Shelby Turner held on to 4th, while Jordan Jarvis earning her first WXC top 5. Steed would finally get fuel to finish the race, ultimately coming home in 9th.
Yeah, I had a bad start. Then I kind of made my way through the pack, and then Shelby kind of tipped over in front of me, and I fell, went all the way back again. And then I just knew if I just stayed patient, be consistent, I could catch those girls. And the last lap and a half, 2 laps was hectic with all the lappers and stuff. Me and Corey were going back and forth, and she made a mistake, and I just tried to bring it home and be consistent.
Nice shot today.
Thanks.
Despite Friday and Saturday rains, by the time the final race of the weekend had made it to the starting line, it was obvious that a good start would be paramount, as much of the sandy Camp Coker soil had dried up and left dusty conditions for the riders. With the green flag in the air, the XC1 field charged towards the first corner. Carrying momentum through the first turn and grabbing the whole shot was Phoenix Racing Honda's Mike Wachowski, with FMF Factory KTM's Dante Oliveira just missing out on the whole shot money. Johnny Gerard, Ricky Russell, and Lane Michael would round out the top 5 as the field headed out for their 3-hour race. At the 5.5-mile mark of lap 1, Oliveira held the lead as the field emerged from the pine section. Gerard would follow with Wachowski on his rear wheel. Russell, Lyndon Snodgrass, and defending champion Craig DeLong would all follow along with the rest of the XC1 field in tow. By the time that riders hit the 9-mile mark, Oliveira and Gerard were long gone. The KTM duo pulled away with a 45-second gap over the rest of the field led by Wachowski, Russell, and Snodgrass. For the next few laps, Oliveira and Gerard would continue to increase their advantage over the rest of the field. Several riders were battling for the final spot on the podium, as Russell, Stu Baylor, and Snodgrass were all making themselves presentable within the top 5 during the race action. By the halfway point, Oliveira and Gerard had a near minute advantage back to Stu Baylor aboard his Rocky Mountain Red Bear Kawasaki. Snodgrass had placed his Kawasaki into 4th, while Grant Baylor, after a tough first lap, saw him check in 14th, made his way into the top 5. Russell suffered a crash that left pieces of his Ampro Yamaha behind on the track. The Washington native would ultimately suffer another crash, damaging his foot, ultimately finishing 8th. On the last lap, it was clear that a KTM was going to take its 4th straight XC1 win to start the year. The question, though, was would it be points leader Gerard or the visiting rider Oliveira, who is on a limited schedule and won't race again until Mason-Dixon in June. At the checkered flag with the rev limiter pegged, Dante Oliveira claimed his first ever GNCC overall victory. Gerard would finish right behind to secure 2nd and increase his overall points lead. Stu Baylor would cross the line in 3rd, but after a protest that deemed he went off-track past the 25-foot rule, he was penalized 1 position, and Grant Baylor would be advanced into 3rd aboard his Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Kawasaki. Snodgrass would round out the top 5.
Yeah, first overall, Coker. It was sweet. Boys did a kick-ass job on the bike, and yeah, Jared Becker on my fitness. I feel great out there, so that's badass, re-evolve life, and yeah, keep on charge.
Take us through the race today. You didn't get the whole shot, but by the time we all got to see it first lap, you were in the lead, and from what we could tell, you never relinquished it.
Yeah, second turn, I got into the lead, and I just put the hammer down. Tried to ride as smooth as possible, and I charged where I could and maintained where I couldn't, so it ended up working. Johnny had his moments where he was quicker than me, and I heard him rubbing up on my rear wheel, but every time I got the chance to charge, I would, and yeah, it ended up working out. Stoked that I was able to hold it together out there. He was breathing down my neck for the whole entire race, so that was sick. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. Next up, a new stop on the GNCC Tour, the Old Gray GNCC in Monterey, Tennessee on April 13th and 14th. I'll see you guys there.